Yeah, so in this video what we're going to do is cover all the things that you need to know, understand and do in order to get the best results out of your care in the clinic, okay? Because ultimately what we want to do, we want to speed up your healing rates, we want to get rid of your pain as quickly as possible, we want to prevent recurrence so that you're never going to go through this again. So we're going to include things like the do's and don'ts as you're going through your care. Ultimately what we want to do is make sure that you get the best out of your visits to the practice and you get the results that you're looking for. Right then, so what we're going to do is talk about the 3 types of patients that come to the clinic. And you will probably find that you identify yourself with one or more of the people in these groups. So I use a washing machine to describe the 3 types of patients that present to us. A little bit of an unusual thing, but it tends to work. So the first group of patients that come to the clinic, imagine that you've got your washing machine, you've loaded it with clothes, and that it's filled with water and it's starting to slosh around, and obviously that's how it cleans the clothes. But some of you may actually associate with this. Some people wake up in the morning and they feel like they were the person that was in the washing machine being sloshed around, and ultimately they feel battered and bruised and they just hurt somewhere. And so the first group of patients that come to see us, they hurt for whatever reason, whether it be due to an accident or an injury, whether it be they've got arthritis, whether it be due to poor posture, bad habits. There are a number of reasons why somebody will end up in pain, but ultimately they feel like they've been in the washing machine, bashed and thrown around basically, all right? So that's my first group of patients. So back to our washing machine, after that it's gone through the washing part of the cycle, it spins around like crazy. And these are my second group of patients. I sometimes say they're a little bit dizzy and confused. And the reason for that is, let's give you a little scenario. So let's say that you've been to, say you've got a back problem and you've had a back problem and you felt the need to go to your GP, okay? So you go to your GP and your GP will turn around to you and say something along the lines of, give you a diagnosis, and then they'll say, come back and see me in 2 weeks if you're no better. Okay, and I'm sure many of you can identify with this. So 2 weeks later you go back to your GP, only unfortunately because of the way our system works, often we don't get to see the same GP. So that means that you'll see somebody else and you'll say, still no better, things are exactly the same as they were, or they're worse, or whatever you want to tell them. And so that GP may give you a different diagnosis, and you think, yeah, but the other one said I'd got this problem and now you're saying I've got something else, and it's like, okay, all right then. So next thing, you're in the coffee shop or in the pub, or you're on the phone to a friend or a relative, and you'll be having a little bit of a moan about the fact that the first GP had given you one diagnosis and the second one's given you a different one. So as you're in conversation with your friend or whoever you're with, you'll say what your symptoms are. And then the next thing you'll find is that they'll say something like, oh, I've had that, or I know somebody had that, and what they got was this. And they'll give you another diagnosis. And you're like, okay, right, all right. So now we're up to 3 diagnoses, all right? Then you might be somewhere and you happen to pick up a magazine, and one of your health magazines, obviously, it goes without saying, and you'll open that up and you'll read an article and it'll describe your symptoms perfectly, and you'll be like, ah, that's what I've got. So now you've got another diagnosis. Okay, right, we're up to 4. And obviously you know what's going to happen next. The final thing that you do, you Google, which means that then you have just about everything going. But the reality of it is that I joke about this situation, but for a lot of people this is a normal scenario. This is quite typical. People will go through this process. And then there's sort of like that, you have that much input and that many diagnoses that really you don't know which way to turn. You don't know what to do for the best. Who is the best person for you to go and see in order to get your particular problem sorted? So this is why I say that my second group of patients are dizzy and confused. It's like, who do you go and see in order to get the problem sorted? And the reality of the situation is, in the vast majority of cases, by the time people come to see us, we are the last resort. I wish that it wasn't that way, admittedly, but at this moment in time, people have like a process that they go through, and I understand that that's what happens. And only when they reach kind of a little bit of a wit's end do they give somebody like us a call. It's like, well, I've got nothing to lose then. I might as well give them a try, okay? So you may be one of the people that's here because of that, and you're at the point where it's like, well, I'll just try anything. So let's go back to our washing machine again. So I want to talk about our third group of patients. So we've already got the ones that feel battered and bruised and they hurt. We've got the ones that are confused about who they should go and see about a particular problem or disorder. And then finally, once you've gone through your washing machine cycle and it's spun around like crazy, you just feel wrung out. You lose your pep, you lose your get up and go, that thing where you wake up in the morning and you're full of energy and it's like, can you remember when you were a kid? And I mean, I've got a 5-year-old at this moment in time, and by the time you watch this, he might be 6 or 7, but at this moment in time, he wakes up in the morning, and do you think he does that, I'll be all right in a few minutes once I've got to the shower and had my shower, or once I've had my cup of tea and I'll loosen off a little bit, I'll be all right. No, he bounds out of bed, and then he bounds onto our bed, and like normally on the bladder, unfortunately. But when he wakes up in the morning, he has that energy, that vibrancy. He doesn't have the stiffness, he doesn't have the aches. And you see, my job as a chiropractor and for the practitioners that are in here, our job is to make sure that you have that level of energy and you wake up in the morning feeling vibrant. So we know that a lot of our patients, when they first come to see us, they just feel, what I call it, the ugh syndrome. They just, they just feel ugh, for whatever reason. And what we notice is as people go through their care, they start to get their energy back and their vibrancy. And the thing that we watch for as you're going through your care is the eyes. The eyes give it away. What I say is, as people go through their course of care, their eyes start to sparkle again. You can see them kind of coming alive again. And it's a wonderful thing to watch. If you're sitting in the welcome area, watch the people, and you'll be able to tell the people that are new to the practice and the people that have been coming for a while. You'll see it in their eyes and in their body and how they move and all that type of stuff as well. Okay, so those are the 3 types of patients. So we've got the people that hurt, we have the people that are feeling confused and they're not sure where to go in order to get their problem fixed. And then finally, we've got the people that are they've just run out of steam. They've just lost their pep, their energy, their get up and go. So you might identify with one group of these patients. You might identify with more than that. But regardless of where you're at this moment in time, the team are here to help you in any way that they possibly can. Alright then, so how quickly are you going to feel better? Well, there are many factors that we have to take into account, and so the reality of the situation is we possibly don't know right at the very beginning. The thing is, the length of time that it takes for you to feel better will depend on your age, the severity of the condition, how long you've had problems for in the past. It could depend on your general health and well-being, what your core score was when we assessed you using the scanner. It could include things like whether you're following your instructions from your practitioner. And then finally, your attendance at your adjustments as well. So if you miss adjustments, then that's going to influence the length of time that it takes for us to get you better and for you to feel better. So the more you do what we instruct you to do and stick to your care plans, the better. So let's talk about tissue healing and repair. And our reason for doing this is because we actually need to manage your expectations. We find that for the vast majority of patients, they don't understand the length of time that it will actually take for certain tissues to heal and repair. And so understanding the process will help you understand why your course of care is the length that it is. Okay? So if we talk about muscles, so in this slide you can see that we have muscle healing. If we're talking about, let's say, a minor injury to your muscles, then this can take anything from 3 to 6 weeks to heal and repair, and we are talking minor injuries for something like that. But if we're talking a severe injury to your muscles, this can take several months up to 1 year. On the next bit, we've got ligaments, and ligaments can take anything between 3 to 6 months to heal and repair. And then finally, we've got nerves. Now, nerves can take up to a year to heal and repair because they only heal by around about 1 millimetre per day. So if you have any damage to the nerves, any nerve interference, then this could potentially take up to a year. Now, these values that I've just given you are based on, let's say, relatively healthy people. So if you have other things going on, such as, let's say, for example, diabetes, then that would actually extend these times, okay, because your healing rates will be slower than a healthy individual. So there are different factors that we have to take into account when we're devising your care plan, and obviously that takes into account the tissues themselves that are damaged, but then also your general health and well-being and how that's going to be influencing it as well. So some people ask us if they can come less frequently for an adjustment. Now, the frequency of the adjustments is designed so that we can put force and energy into the joints in order to create change in them. However, then we also need some spacing for your body to adapt. Now, the only thing is if you go too long in between your adjustments, then yes, you'll have the adaptation, but then you'll start to decline, and that defeats the object. So then we start to lose the benefit. So instead of each treatment building on the one before, we do a little bit of a build up and improvement, but then you start to dip off, and then we do an adjustment, and so we do more of a roller coaster. Which you just don't get the same results. Each treatment is spaced and designed so that it is building on the one before to elevate you up to the next level. So the recommended care plan is there for a reason, and we wouldn't recommend deviating from that. You may have noticed that we talk about finding your mojo the natural way, and natural covers the 7 elements that are required for your body to be healthy. And that does include your spine and your nervous system. So what I want to do is run through how they influence your spine and your nervous system, and essentially your recovery as you're going through care. So let's first of all talk about nutrition then. So when we're talking about nutrition, obviously we want to make sure that your body is strong enough that it holds the adjustment, so that your body it doesn't want to slip out of alignment again, okay? So what we have to do, we've got to make sure that you've got a good nerve supply going to those muscles. We've got to make sure that those muscles are strong, and we've also got to make sure that the bones that they attach to are strong and healthy as well, okay? So we need, if we're talking from a nutritional perspective, then first of all, we've got to make sure that the muscles are strong. So good quality proteins are required in order to make sure that your muscles are strong and healthy. So that's fair enough, isn't it? Yeah. So then if we're talking about the bones, does anybody know what the bones need to be healthy and strong? Bit of vitamin D, yes. So vitamin D is definitely required, along with calcium, obviously. And then finally, you actually need cholesterol for bones to be healthy as well, because cholesterol is required for the vitamin D to get absorbed into the body as it's supposed to. So cholesterol is very, very important. When we're talking about the nerves need fat in order to be healthy. In particular, omega-3 fatty acids. So we need to make sure that we have adequate amounts of those in our diet. And you may find that your practitioner will talk to you along these lines. In particular, if you have got any nerve irritation or interference, and we need to ensure that the nerves are healing, repairing as quickly as they can be. Also, from a nutritional perspective, what we want to do is make sure that we control your inflammatory levels in your body. And this is done in a number of ways. Number one, reducing the amount of grains in your diet is going to reduce the amount of inflammation. You see, if your body is inflamed, it actually feels pain more. So what we want to do is calm your body down overall. So that's why we would recommend a grain-free diet where possible, okay? On top of that, we'd normally recommend that you take omega-3 fatty acids because that can reduce your inflammatory levels as well. So what it does, it normalises inflammatory markers within about 3 months length of time of taking the fish oil. So that's another thing that you can do. And again, it's the reason for doing that is because more that we reduce the inflammation, you just don't feel the pain as much. Alignment and posture is next, and obviously this is the major part and the major premise of the work that we do within the practice. So what you'll find is your practitioner will run through exercises and advice in order to help your adjustments hold, but then also to improve your posture as well, so that you minimise the any adaptations and the impact of poor posture on the condition that you're struggling with at this moment in time as well. Thoughts and emotions. So thoughts and emotions have a huge impact on the conditions that we see here in the practice. And to be honest, we normally have a little bit of a guess about how big an impact it's having, what percentage of our patients are struggling with stress, anxiety, and we actually think that the numbers are now hitting close to 90 and 95% of our patients. So we know that stress and anxiety are huge issues that result in people presenting with musculoskeletal problems, whether it be back pain or whether it be neck pain. So part of the reason for that is when you are stressed and anxious, what it actually does is it elevates your cortisol levels. Now, you know how anabolic steroids build you up? Yes? Well, cortisol, the stress hormone, is a catabolic hormone, which basically means it breaks down your tissues. So if we're talking, let's say, muscles, just as an example, if you're chronically stressed, then your muscles will have been getting weaker and weaker over time. Now, obviously, from our perspective, we now then know that that has been making you more vulnerable and more susceptible to getting back and neck problems because of the fact those muscles have been getting weaker over a prolonged period of time. Okay, so it's something to be aware of. The fact that when you are stressed, it has a massive impact on the conditions that we see in here. Now, the other thing that happens is when you're stressed, your muscles go tight. So we all know that when you're stressed, the shoulders go up around the ears, and then you feel like you need to stretch your neck out, and you feel uncomfortable, and you can start getting that tension in your neck and shoulders. What a lot of people don't realise though is every single muscle in your body will have gone tense as a result of it. Literally every single muscle. So because all of your muscles are tense, then you tend to find that small actions that would be very simple. Let's say, for example, you dropped your pen on the floor and you'd got to pick it up and your back goes as a result of that, then I know that you have got weakness in that region, but that weakness could be as a result of the fact that you've been stressed and so your muscles have become weak, but then also you've got a tension in there, which means you haven't got the same level of flexibility. So the two combined together can result in severe problems and a recurrence of problems as well. So it's one of the reasons why we assess your stress levels when you come to the practice, because we want to make sure that we keep them as low as possible, because we're very aware of the long-term influences of it. And we want to make sure that you get long-term benefits, not short-term, long-term, and we want to prevent the recurrence of the problems. U in natural stands for unsafe toxins, and you'll be like, yeah, but what's that got to do with having a back problem? Well, when your body is exposed to toxins, anything that it perceives as a threat, it perceives it as a threat in exactly the same way as if you were being chased by a tiger, okay? So what actually happens is your cortisol and your stress hormones go up in exactly the same way as if you were stressed. So your cortisol levels go up in that respect as well. And then what happens is you get weakening of the muscles, and so you've already got that problem, and then you've also got the tension that's associated with it. So the muscles are tense and recruited, ready for fight or flight. So they get prepared. Your muscles are actually preparing for running away or fighting whatever it is when you're stressed, when you're anxious, or when your body perceives a stress, such as being exposed to toxins that your body shouldn't be. So by toxins, they don't necessarily have to be what you think. So we could talk about shampoos and soaps and perfumes and cleaners and all those sort of things that are in our environment. I mean, air fresheners. I mean, there's so many chemicals that we're exposed to, like washing up liquids and wash powders and fabric conditioners. I mean, in an average day, makeup. We're exposed to a huge amount of toxins all of the time. So that's one thing for us to consider, and our body will be perceiving it and interpreting it as a stress. But like I say, they don't have to come from where you think. So an alternative form of stress, let's say, I'm going to give you an example that we see within the practice. So I'll give you an example of a particular patient, and I could tell you a number of stories from different patients, but let's just talk about this one in particular. So I had a patient that was 44 years old when she presented to the clinic. She'd had a low back problem and chronic fatigue as well since she was 30. So over a 14-year period, she'd suffered from a back problem and chronic fatigue, and severe chronic fatigue. So, I mean, I still remember her coming into the practice. She was using 2 walking sticks in order to get in. It took her a long time to get to the room. I mean, the amount of energy that it must have taken for her to even come to the practice must have been huge for her. Obviously I assessed her for the back problem primarily. And with care, she was responding, but she wasn't responding brilliantly. And she got a little bit frustrated. And to be fair, I had as well. And so when she came in and she goes, Julia, she says, I got a bit frustrated, so I went to my GP and I asked him to take some x-rays. And I said, fantastic, that's brilliant. The more information we've got, the better. And she says, well, I've actually got the x-rays with me. Would you like to have a look at them? I said, yeah, fantastic. So I put the x-rays up on the view box, and then as soon as I put them up, and you have that moment where you're like, oh, God, I can't believe I didn't think of this. But on the x-ray, I could see that she'd got a belly button piercing, okay? Now, one of the things that we find is that piercings can disrupt your nervous system. And when you're talking about belly button piercings, certainly with regards to low back disorders, it can affect you in other ways as well, but low back disorders, certainly there seems to be a connection. So I did some testing, special testing, so I do applied kinesiology, and that was in order to work out whether the piercing was causing a problem or whether it wasn't, and it showed up positive. So I suggested that she take it out, and obviously at that she was like, take it out of me, take it out of me. I was like, no, do it yourself. So she took it out. Now within the space of 2 days, not only did her back problem completely recover, but so did her chronic fatigue. So within the space of 4 days, she cancelled all of her sickness benefits that she was doing, and she turned around to me and says, but Julia, I am no longer a sick person. So that piercing was having her body was reacting so strongly to it, it was perceiving it as a threat, it was stressed as a result of it, and so it significantly influenced her nervous system and ultimately her overall health and well-being. So when I talk about unsafe toxins, what your body perceives as a threat isn't necessarily what you would automatically think about. So it's just, I want you to be aware of what you expose yourself to, because that could be having a significant influence on your overall health. Alright then, so let's talk about rest and how vital that is to your healing and recovery. So the first thing I'm going to say, for those of you who are either shift workers or you don't go to bed until after midnight, you're already onto a loser, and I'm going to explain exactly why. So in an ideal world, you would be asleep by 11 o'clock, okay? So we want you to be going to bed and settling down and aiming to be falling asleep by around about 10:30. And the reason for that is, between the hours of 11 and 1 o'clock, you have a surge in growth hormone in your body. And this is a natural rhythm that occurs in your body. It's all to do with daylight hours and, you know, all that kind of thing. But essentially between 11 and 1 o'clock is when that occurs, okay? Now, the thing with that is that surge of growth hormone is designed to help your body heal and repair. And by heal and repair, I'm talking about physical healing and repair, not mental. Mental occurs between 2 and 4 in the morning. Physical, 11 till 1 o'clock, because of this surge of growth hormone that goes into your body. So we need you to be asleep. Now, I know I will have the people that go to bed after midnight and they'll go, I just can't fall asleep. I can't fall asleep until, you know, it's after 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, whatever it is. But the reality of the situation, that's only a habit. Because if I took you abroad, say, I don't know, I took you to Florida or Bali, wherever you want to go, it would only take you about a week for you to come round to the new time zone. That's exactly what you've got to do in order to help your body here and now, and to encourage your healing rates and to get your healing rates up so that we can get you fixed and healed and repaired as quickly as possible. Okay, so time to start changing those sleep habits, guys. I want to hear that you're in bed between 10 and 10:30, sleep by 11. Let's talk about activity. So when I talk about activity, people think that I'm going to talk about going to the gym. And that is not what I mean. So when we're talking about activity and what is good for us as human beings, isn't necessarily going to the gym and doing something that you don't particularly enjoy. Now, for those of you that do enjoy the gym, that is fantastic. Don't overdo it all the same. But when we're talking about us as human beings, our bodies like movement, but not excessive movement. And it's the regularity of the movement more than anything else that makes the difference, and taking our bodies through ranges of motion as well. So you want to take joints through a range of motion. So dance is particularly good, making sure that you walk at regular intervals is particularly good for your body, going for a swim is particularly good. You see, as long as you're getting movement into your body, you are still going to be getting the health benefits, but you need to make sure that you get a variety in there. Variety is the key when you're talking about activity for the body. If you're doing the same thing, so I'm a runner, all I do is run, I don't do anything but running, that isn't necessarily going to be good for you. But if you said, well, on a Monday I do some running, but then on a Tuesday I do some yoga, and then on a I do, it's variety. Variety is what the body enjoys, what it gets benefit from, but you need movement. Now imagine you had a day where you were lolling on the sofa, all right? By the end of the day, do you feel better or worse? I know how I feel. God, I just feel sluggish and tired. But then if I force myself to go out and just go for a little brisk walk, just quick 20 minutes, I'll come back in and it's like, oh God, I feel so much better for that. Now the reason for that is movement, and movement in particular of the spinal joints, actually lights up the brain. It fires it off. It's almost like it's a dynamo. You need movement in the spine in order for your brain to work how it's supposed to, okay? Studies have been done on this to show that with spinal movement, how areas of the brain get lit up, and they fire off and they start working as a result of it, and areas of the brain that are not normally utilised light up, okay? And in particular when you have an adjustment, which is really, really interesting. So it could be one of the reasons why people feel so great after an adjustment as well. But that aside, it's about making sure that your body gets regular movement so that you get that feeling and you get that brain working, and then the messages to the rest of your body from your brain down your nervous system out to whatever they supply, literally every cell, tissue, organ, get the input that they need to be healthy and to react appropriately. So finally, we talk about love and connection within the practice, and this is very dear to my heart because I've worked hard with my husband to create a community in here. We want people to love being in here as much as we love being in here, because when you feel part of a community and you feel supported, you're more likely to succeed. And our job is to make sure that you get the results that you're after. So being part of our community, feeling like you belong, getting the support that you need at this moment in time is vital. And the reality of it is, the success of, say, diet clubs, whether it be your Weight Watchers or Slimming World and all that type of thing, the reason why people get great results when they go along to those types of classes is because they are getting support. They are surrounded by people with the same goals or a common goal or a common interest. And so because of that network and that level of support, they're more likely to succeed. And I truly hope that you get that from coming to the practice as well.